Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning will begin on a nonprofit organization that works to address the many needs of youth in Milwaukee. Pathfinders is Wisconsin's oldest and most comprehensive and effective service providers for runaway, throwaway, and homeless young people aged 11 to 17. Research shows that young people are extremely resilient and able to heal from severe trauma and go on to live healthy and full lives if they're able to assess housing, basic life needs, as well as connections to caring and supportive adults. Here to tell us about Pathfinders' wide array of programs and services is Tim Baack. He's the president and CEO of Pathfinders. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
And Pathfinders has been serving the community since 1970, and it was actually started in the basement of St. Mary's Hospital. So that's quite a history there.
It is.
So right now, you guys are serving over 6,000 children, young adults, and their families each and every year. So tell us a little bit more about what it is you do.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, we're approaching our 50th anniversary here in the community. And I would say in the last decade, we've really expanded our services for older adolescents and young adults because we saw a critical unmet need in our community for those transition age young people who may legally be adults but developmentally were still adolescents. And as young adults were really struggling and floundering in terms of the services and resources that they needed but could not access within the adult service system.
Yeah, understandable.
So we expanded our services and really broadened our ability to touch the lives of more young people and their families by listening to young people and hearing what they most needed from us and from the community that they really could not find elsewhere. And our drop-in center is a direct result of that, as well as our supportive housing services that we've added over the last several years.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about your drop-in center, but I wanted to talk about some of these issues, looking at the numbers. And I think that for some people, they'll be surprised that there are so many young people dealing with these type of issues. 34% of the total homeless population is under the age of 24. In 2015, 42% of Milwaukee children under the age of 18 lived in poverty, and approximately 40% of homeless teens identify as LGBT, which through doing these type of conversations, I realized that sometimes when they may not be in a situation at home where their family understands the lifestyle that they're choosing, that they sometimes are forced to leave or they just decide to leave, which leaves them in many vulnerable situations. So this is where Pathfinders really plays a huge role in being there to give them the resources that they need in order to be successful. So sadly, over 50% of young people in shelters and on the streets have said that their parents told them to leave or knew they were leaving and didn't care. That's amazing. Yeah,
you're identifying a number of key areas that our organization focuses on, which is our young people are highly traumatized, and the vulnerabilities that you identified are really key to why they're at risk for exploitation or being trafficked sexually or through labor trafficking, and why it's so critical that resources like ours exist for them when they're most needed. Yeah,
I wouldn't agree with you more. It's like students have really dealt with the effects of having unstable housing, I should say, 2 times more likely to have learning disabilities, 4 times more likely to drop out of school, and it also, like you just said, puts them in danger of human trafficking. So if you would, talk about the young people that come to Pathfinders and have been victims of sex trafficking.
Yeah. The issue of the trafficking or exploitation of young people is not a new issue. At Pathfinders, we have seen the exploitation of our young people for many, many years. What is new is, I think, the growing awareness and hopefully the understanding in the broader community about this issue and the magnitude of the issue. Through our work, through our street outreach program, for example, we see the most vulnerable young people in our community. These are youth who have been oftentimes thrown out of the home or come from families who themselves are homeless. They're attempting to get their basic needs met through whatever ways are available to them. And unfortunately, for many of them, because they're on the margins of our community, because they've been marginalized for a variety of reasons in terms of who they are or who they're trying to become, they are at some of the highest risk for being exploited or trafficked. In response to that growing situation in our community, and I should note that we are unfortunately increasingly recognized across the country as one of the top 5 hubs for this issue. So in response to that, we, over the last several years, developed some really specialized programs that focus primarily on a critical resource for these young people, which is advocacy. Our team in our New Pass program, which is now beginning its 3rd year of services, is working with well over 200 young people each year. And there in that program, we see the intersectionality of a number of those vulnerabilities that you mentioned earlier. About 3/4 of our young people who are being trafficked or exploited or are at great risk for that also report homelessness and housing instability as one of the key drivers for why they are being taken advantage of. We see a disproportionate number of young people who identify as LGBTQ also coming through our New Pass exploitation and trafficking program. And then we have the issue of poverty. Poverty is pervasive in our community. For young people living in poverty who are not getting their basic needs for food, clothing, shelter met on a daily, predictable basis, that just increases exponentially their vulnerability for someone else taking advantage of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you recently, you as in the organization, put together a panel of experts to discuss Milwaukee's sex trafficking epidemic and the impact that it is having on our youth. So if you would just kind of talk about the importance of continuing to have this conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, at Pathfinders, we work with issues that are critically important to our community, but are often invisible to the general community, and how those issues come together in really important and difficult ways, namely the intersectionality between homelessness and the number of young people in our community who are homeless, and the trafficking and exploitation of young people. Again, another very invisible issue or problem for most people in our community. And so the panel that we pulled together are really several of our key collaborative partners. We can't do this difficult work on our own, and we really rely on the expertise and the experience of those that we partner with. And together we are finding that we're having some pretty dramatic results in reducing the vulnerability of young people and thereby reducing the risk of homelessness and trafficking.
Well, that's great news. So when you say that you're able to probably look at the numbers and compare and contrast on how things have changed, what would you say has been successful in having that occur?
Well, our New Pass program is based on a long-standing tradition in our organization of working with what exists that is evidence-based and best practice in terms of how we engage with young people at their pace, at their level. Our federal partners had developed years ago a model of working with young people called positive youth development, which really views youth from a strength-based perspective and really sees young people as an asset to our community. And so while not ignoring the issues and challenges that they're experiencing, we also draw upon what they're best at and really build from there. We are a firm believer that if we can better as a community meet the basic needs of our young people, we are evidencing a harm reduction strategy that really does tackle both homelessness and exploitation simultaneously.
And to get back to some of the programs and services that you have, I thought it was really awesome to read about your street beat, because you guys are getting into a vehicle and you all probably have realized some of the signs and symptoms to look for when looking for young people who are in need or who are stressed or maybe homeless. So instead of them having to find you, you are looking for them and letting them know that you're there to help. That's pretty amazing.
We've been doing street outreach for nearly 2 decades, and we are one of only a handful of comprehensive programs of its kind across the country. And we recognized long ago that it was one thing for young people to be able to find us and come to us. It was another thing for us to go to where they were. And we know where they are because other young people tell us. So we really rely on the trusting relationships we develop with our youth, so that they can be a resource to help us find other highly vulnerable young people. You know, it is challenging in our work insofar as there's certain stereotypes that exist when we talk about someone experiencing homelessness or housing instability, when we talk about someone who's involved in sex trafficking or sexual exploitation. And the reality is our young people don't fit those stereotypes. And so, again, that adds to that invisibility that exists in those two key issues in particular. But it's really through deep engagement with our young people that we find out who does need our services. And we really try to make sure that our services are accessible, are barrier-free, are available for youth when they're ready to accept the services, and that they are brought into a place that is welcoming and safe.
Yes, and you have your drop-in center that provides basic needs. And you talk about someone being at risk or homeless, then food becomes a concern, being able to find a place to take a shower, just those basic needs, like you said. You even provide bus tickets, whatever it is that you're able to provide to young people, you do what you need to do to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the provision of basic needs is the right thing to do, and it's also a way to build trust and relationship with young people. It is core to our harm reduction strategy. If they can come to Pathfinders and our drop-in center, if they can, without any questions, be able to get a meal and do their laundry and take a shower and get donated clothing or health or hygiene products. From there, we can build a much more intensive way to address their longer-term housing, education, and employment needs. And we're incredibly effective at doing that.
Yes, and you mentioned something that's key. You said donated clothes. So there is a way that those watching can really help make a difference, whether it be through monetary donations or volunteering, clothing, whatever the case. Explain what they can actually do to help make a difference.
Sure, that's a great question. And we are always in need of financial contributions. I mean, that's really key to having services that are flexible and responsive to the current and the emerging needs of our young people throughout the Milwaukee community. In addition to financial donations, we rely on the community to donate clothing that would be appropriate for youth and young adults, whether that be casual clothing or clothing that they can use for their first job interview or for getting a job. Health and hygiene products are always in demand, particularly for youth who come from communities of color. That's something we try to be particularly sensitive to. We have a meal program that not only gives youth sometimes their only meal of the day, but also by sharing a meal builds a sense of connection and community. And so we have various individuals, families, faith-based organizations, corporations coming in, preparing a meal, and then ideally staying and sharing a meal with their young people. It really evidences not only the meeting of their basic needs, but their value and their connection to the broader community.
Well, it takes a village. That's what it's all about. So
it really does.
I'm sure I speak for many when I say thank you for what you do to help make a difference in the community with our young people. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, thank you.
Tim Baack, he is the president and CEO of Pathfinders. To find out more about anything that we've discussed today, you can visit their website at pathfindersmke.org or give them a call at 414-964-2565. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll continue our conversation about the sex trafficking epidemic in Milwaukee. We'll meet national consultant Claudine O'Leary, who works right here in Milwaukee, helping people better understand how our youth are impacted by this epidemic each and every day. We'll do that right after this.